You're exhausted, and maybe you can't even explain why. But you feel it, that constant pressure in your chest, like you're carrying a weight no one else sees, always holding things together, always smoothing the edges, making sure no one's upset, always kind, always calm, always composed. You were taught early that goodness was a virtue, that the kind-hearted win in the end, that fairness would be returned, that honesty and humility would earn you respect, that the world would reward decency. But what if all of that was just a beautiful lie, a comforting illusion designed to make you predictable? How many times have you silenced yourself just to keep the peace? How many times have you dimmed your light to avoid making anyone uncomfortable? How often have you let someone cross the line, disregard your worth, and still you smiled, swallowed your voice, your pain, your pride, in the name of being a good person, only to be overlooked again? Let's be honest, this world doesn't reward kindness, it rewards awareness, strategy, clarity. And if you've made it this far, you already know that. You've bent over backwards trying to be the nice one, the loyal friend, the patient soul, and now you're waking up, realizing that the more you try to be accepted, the more you are taken for granted, the more you give, the more is expected, and the less you're valued. This is where Machiavelli becomes necessary, not as the villain history made him, but as the one who dared to say what others wouldn't. He understood something most still deny, that morality without power is a trap, that being perceived as good means nothing if you're not respected, not effective, not in control. In this video, we're stripping off the filters, speaking without apology about why you need to stop chasing approval. Stop trying to be the good one. And no, that doesn't mean becoming heartless. It means becoming awake. Breaking free from the childish belief that fairness alone leads to reward, that the world plays by moral rules. We're going to confront the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Because as long as you're trying to be liked, you're in chains, trapped by your own kindness. And if you're tired of being used, tired of being dismissed, tired of being invisible, then maybe it's time to learn what no one ever taught you, and finally, take the reins of your own life. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Do you still believe the world truly values good people? Take a hard look around. Who are the ones we admire most? Who ends up in charge? Who commands respect, influence, and space? Is it those who are the most generous, the most compassionate, the most morally upright? Or is it the ones who are calculated, decisive, and impossible to manipulate? Here's the harsh truth. This world doesn't revolve around kindness. It revolves around usefulness. Machiavelli understood this long before we did. He didn't write The Prince to turn people cruel. He wrote it to expose how power actually works. And one of his hardest truths is this: goodness alone will never be enough. In fact, trying to lead with goodness can often be the fastest way to be thrown aside. You can live your entire life being loyal, thoughtful, generous. You can give and give, offer your time, your energy, your heart, without ever asking for anything in return. But the moment you're no longer useful, you will be replaced, forgotten, silenced. And what's worse, they won't even feel bad about it. Because the world doesn't weigh your worth by your intentions. It measures you by your impact, by your influence, by what you can produce, protect, or provide. Have you noticed this? The nice ones are always the ones explaining themselves, trying to earn their place, trying to prove they belong. Meanwhile, the ones who draw the line, who say no without apology, who speak directly and act decisively, they get heard, they get space, they get respect. Why? Because naive kindness is mistaken for weakness. Because if you never challenge, never question, never pose a threat, you're seen as safe. And safe means forgettable. You become a resource, a function, not a person. You can destroy yourself trying to keep others happy, but if you don't carry weight, if people don't feel consequence when they cross you, they won't think twice before using you. It's difficult to accept, but it's the reality we live in. Machiavelli once wrote that if a leader must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved. And what he meant wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. That real respect comes from presence, from knowing that your silence isn't surrender, that you're not someone others can just move aside, that you matter, that pushing you has a cost. And this isn't just about leaders, this is about you. Because if you keep living just to be pleasant, you'll keep being seen as disposable, not because you lack value, but because people won't recognize it. The world doesn't reward those who vanish into the background. It forgets them. So ask yourself, where does this endless need for approval even come from? Because beneath your kindness, there's something deeper. And it may have been holding you back your entire life. And that is exactly what we're going to uncover next. In the next part, we'll go deep into the psychological roots of people-pleasing and reveal why being nice is often just fear. You weren't born trying to make everyone happy. That instinct was planted in you, and worse, it was conditioned into your identity. From your earliest years, you learned that love came with a cost. You had to trade parts of yourself. Force smiles, bury your desires, swallow your opinions, all just to be accepted. From don't do that, it's not ladylike, to be nice, to don't talk back, to you're so well behaved. And so, bit by bit, you started shaping yourself into the version others preferred. But no one ever warned you that constantly trying to please is a psychological trap, a subtle prison, built with sugar-coated praise and punishments cleverly disguised as love. You were taught, if you keep everyone happy, you'll be loved. But if you ever say no, if you draw a line, if you act in your own interest, you'll be rejected. So naturally, you adapted, because survival always comes first. But here's the problem. What began as adaptation eventually hardened into submission. Now, you don't even know how to say no without guilt. You carry the weight of everyone's emotions, even if it crushes you. You feel anger, but you stay silent. You feel let down, but you forgive too fast. You're constantly exhausted, trying to maintain a version of yourself that others find acceptable. Not because it reflects who you truly are, but because it made you feel safe. Here's the truth. No one told you. This isn't kindness, it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, fear of being seen as selfish, fear of showing the real you, the one with needs, with limits, with fire in your chest and a voice that's gone unheard, and that fear has quietly shaped you into your own worst enemy. You've been sabotaging yourself, hiding behind what the world calls politeness, but what is, in reality, emotional self-erasure. And the saddest part, you don't even notice it anymore. You tell yourself it's empathy, but it's really fear of confrontation. You call it compassion, but it's fear of being left behind. You say it's kindness, but it's the desperate need to be enough. Your kindness has become a mask, a reflex, a silent strategy to dodge rejection. But that mask is costing you dearly. It's choking your authenticity, your power, your dignity. And if you don't tear it off, it will fuse to your face. It will become who you think you are. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize you have no idea who's looking back. But there is still a way back, and to find it, we need to turn to someone who understood the psychology of image, the precision of perception, and the art of strategic identity. In the next part, we'll go straight to the core and explore what the prince can teach us about breaking free from the need to appear good and learning instead to be respected for who we really are. If you're still living under the hope that being good will eventually be noticed, that your honesty, your integrity, your good heart will speak for itself, then it's time to wake up. The truth is this: being morally upright doesn't guarantee anything. Not respect, not safety, not success. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. And he didn't glorify cruelty. He exposed reality. He warned that in a world driven by power and fear, being good without being effective is a losing game. People don't respond to your goodness. They respond to your leverage, to the pressure you apply, to the impression you create. You can be full of principles, but if your presence lacks weight, you'll be dismissed. You can be the most well-meaning person in the room, but if you don't demand respect, you'll be invisible. It's not your truth that shapes how you're treated. It's how your truth is perceived. This is where The Prince becomes relevant, not as a book of manipulation, but as a manual for surviving with your soul intact. Machiavelli's idea wasn't to abandon values, it was to understand how to protect them. He argued that, to survive, you must be both alert and commanding, like a fox who sees the trap before it's set, and a lion whose strength no one dares test, not one or the other, both. The fox sees through the mask. The lion ensures no one forgets who they're dealing with, because in a world this unpredictable, being naive is not noble. It's dangerous. You can't just hope people will understand your heart. You have to make sure they understand your strength. Respect isn't given to the most moral. It's given to those who know when to protect themselves. Real virtue isn't about being soft and selfless in every moment. It's about having the courage to act decisively, even when it means being misunderstood. Sometimes the only way to be fair is to be firm. Sometimes the only way to keep order is to stop apologizing for your limits. Machiavelli once said, "If you try to be good in a world full of those who aren't, you'll be broken by it." And if you've ever tried to be kind in every situation, you already know what he meant. You've been walked over, overlooked, punished for your patience, and no matter how fair you tried to be, others didn't return it. Because most people don't play by the same rules, and if you pretend they do, you'll keep losing to those who don't. So no, this isn't about abandoning what makes you good. It's about refusing to let your goodness be used against you. It's about learning how to protect it, with strategy, with presence, with power. Machiavelli wasn't a cynic. He was brutally honest. He didn't glorify corruption. He just refused to lie about how the world works. And if you're tired of being used, of being underestimated, then maybe it's time to stop living as though appearance doesn't matter, because it does. And kindness without strength looks like weakness. But now you might be wondering, how do I protect myself without becoming heartless? How do I stop being naive without becoming cold? There's a dangerous misconception that quietly ruins countless lives. The belief that being good means being obedient. That to be seen as kind, you must stay silent. Tolerate everything. Swallow every discomfort just to keep the peace. But that's not virtue. That's surrender. That's fear dressed up as morality. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll spend your life letting the world walk over you. True kindness has nothing to do with making yourself small. It's not about erasing your voice. It's about awareness. It's about discernment. It's about having the strength to choose. Being good doesn't mean becoming a smiling puppet, always available, always giving, always bending for people who wouldn't bend an inch for you. That's not compassion. That's self-erasure. That's emotional dependence hiding behind a moral mask. Naive people believe the world will mirror their heart. They think fairness guarantees fairness in return. They expect gratitude, loyalty, decency, and they end up bitter, wounded, because they keep projecting goodness onto people who don't deserve it. Real kindness isn't soft. It's anchored. It knows when to close the door. It knows when to walk away. It recognizes that your energy is not infinite, and giving it to those who offer nothing back is not noble. It's wasteful. You can be principled, you can be warm, and still be feared, still be respected, still be someone who owns the room, who knows where their line is, and refuses to let it be crossed. Machiavelli, though often misunderstood, didn't despise virtue. He despised delusion. He understood that in a world full of hunters, unprotected kindness is just another target. So ask yourself honestly, is your kindness shielding you or exposing you? Is it a strength or a slow form of self-destruction? Because if your version of being good means tolerating injustice, accepting the bare minimum, blaming yourself for feeling anger, then you're not being good. You're being controlled. But there's a way out. There's a middle path where you don't have to betray who you are. But you also don't have to kneel to anyone. A way to act with strength, with clarity, with emotional intelligence, without letting the world tame your fire. And in the next part, we're going to explore that path. We'll talk about how to stop being nice without turning cold. And finally, take back control without abandoning your values. Because if you want to reclaim your dignity, this is where the shift begins. A lot of people, once they realize how deeply they've been submitting, fall into a new trap. They swing to the other extreme. They think the only way to stop being used is to shut down completely, to become cold, unreachable, hard. It's the classic rebound. After years of being walked on, you assume the answer is to become the opposite. Harsh, calculating, untouchable. But that's just another illusion, because when you abandon your essence, you're not stronger. You're just hiding. You're protecting pain with performance and calling it strength. That isn't freedom. It's trauma disguised as control. Real liberation. It comes when you become whole again, when you stop performing for approval and start choosing for yourself. This isn't about being good or bad. It's about being real. Looking in the mirror and knowing. You still have kindness, but you're no longer soft-spoken out of fear. You still have empathy, but it's no longer something others can exploit. You still reach out your hand, but not because you're desperate to be seen. So how do you break out of the nice person trap without abandoning your heart? It starts with reclaiming your voice. You were taught that speaking up makes you selfish, that standing your ground means you're difficult, that anger is something to be ashamed of. But the truth is the opposite. There's nothing selfish about protecting your space. There's nothing wrong with saying, "I will not accept this." That's not cruelty. That's dignity. Then comes one of the hardest skills you'll ever learn. The ability to say no. Not with rage, not with defense, but with calm certainty. A steady no carries more weight than 1,000 excuses. Because it shows you have limits, and limits are the foundation of respect. Pay attention to what happens next. When you start changing, some people will push back. They'll call you selfish, cold, different, but they're not describing you. They're revealing themselves. What they're really saying is, your silence used to benefit me, and now it doesn't. Their discomfort is not your failure. It's proof that something is shifting. You don't have to explain that shift to everyone. You don't have to be understood. Some people only love the version of you that stayed quiet. But your loyalty doesn't belong to their idea of you. It belongs to your peace, to your growth, to the version of you that finally feels true. And here's what changes everything. When you stop needing to be accepted, you start becoming authentic. And while that authenticity might repel some, it draws in the right people. And more importantly, it draws in your own respect. That kind of self-respect, the kind you build by being honest, is untouchable. Machiavelli didn't write to make people cruel. He wrote to teach them not to be naive. And one of the greatest lies ever sold is that kindness on its own will earn you respect. It won't. It takes courage to stop being a pleaser. It takes strength to show up as yourself without waiting for permission. And that's exactly where you are now, at the edge of a choice that changes everything. Will you keep betraying yourself just to be liked? Or will you finally take back your life? In the final part, we'll close with the truth most people avoid. The truth that your obsession with being seen as good might be the very thing holding you hostage, and the time has come to choose. Do you want to be loved, or do you want to be free? Let's not sugarcoat it. You've been shrinking for far too long. And for what? To keep the peace. To protect an image that was never yours to begin with. To make sure no one feels threatened by your voice. How many times have you handed over your energy just to be seen as agreeable? How many times have you swallowed your needs just to avoid disappointing people who wouldn't hesitate to disappoint you? That's not integrity. That's not humility. That's a quiet kind of self-destruction, dressed up to look like virtue. What you're living in isn't peace. It's a polished prison, a life where you're rewarded for being easy to ignore, for being predictable, for never taking up too much space. And here's the part no one tells you. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to knock on your door, applaud your sacrifices, hand you the respect you deserve and say, now it's your turn. Because the world doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on permission, and as long as you allow yourself to be used, there will always be someone willing to use you. That's not cruelty. That's just how reality works. And reality doesn't reward silence. You can keep playing the part. The patient one. The peacemaker. The always available version of yourself that makes everyone else comfortable. But it comes at a price. Frustration, resentment, disappearing in your own story. Or you can choose something different. You can stop confusing kindness with submission. You can stop giving away what you never get back. You can stop begging for affection in places that never saw your value. This is what real self-respect looks like. You decide who gets access to your generosity. You speak with intention. You act with presence. You stop explaining yourself and start building a life that mirrors your worth. The truth, people don't respect those who always say yes. They respect those who respect themselves. And the day you stop apologizing for taking up space is the day you finally start living. So let me ask you something, and answer it with honesty, not habit. When was the last time you told someone no without guilt? When was the last time you made a decision purely for yourself without flinching? When was the last time you stopped worrying about how others would react and simply did what was right for you? Because if you've made it this far, then something in you is shifting. And you're not alone. There are thousands of people who've lived in the same quiet prison and are just waiting to hear from someone brave enough to step out first. So maybe that's you. Maybe you are the moment someone else finally wakes up. And if this opens something inside you, then don't stop here, because you're not done. You're just getting started.